disable a few laser cannons. What is the big deal? All we gotta do is find that one little wire.
Oh, Mama.
Ahoy, ye scallywags, and welcome aboard the SS Always Sunny in Hollywood. I be Captain Paddy. Please welcome me crew.
My name is Logia, and I'm a spider, and I like to cause mischief and kill people.
And I'm Red.
We're not gonna keep the pirate thing going all throughout. That'd be something. But we're getting into some swashbuckling today with two pirate-themed films.
Two animated pirate films, yeah.
Yes, two box office bomb animated pirate films. But first up, set course for Treasure Planet. Treasure Planet was directed by John Musker and Ron Clements, who have directed several films for Disney in the past, including The Great Mouse Detective, The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, and Hercules. And this film actually had a bit of a long road to get through, because it was actually first pitched in 1985 by the duo, along with The Little Mermaid, and Disney chose to go with The Little Mermaid. But after The Little Mermaid, they pitched it again, but Disney said no, so they made Aladdin instead. And after Aladdin, they were like, can we please make this movie? And Disney was like, okay, here, make one more financially successful movie for us, then you can make this film. So they made Hercules, and that was successful, so yeah, they got to make their passion project, Treasure Planet. It released in November 2002, and while it was well received, the box office, it wasn't good. It grossed $109 million against a budget of $140 million. When you take into marketing costs, that's an additional $40 million, so yeah, this was a pretty major bomb, and one of the main reasons why Disney switched over to 3D animation. But it has developed a cult following over the years, so as someone who hadn't seen this movie in like over a decade, I was curious to see how it would fare out.
Actually, before we get into that, do you know why exactly it bombed?
It was a multitude of factors. It was the budget. It was the fact that it released like around the same time as the second Harry Potter film.
From what I understand, Disney, this was a movie that got made just because Disney promised they would make it, but they didn't actually have like much interest in promoting it, so.
I think it's because it also came out during a time where a lot of people were just expecting to get these on DVD, and you wouldn't really want to pay that much to go to the theater just to see it by that point in 2002.
Yeah, that's true, but at the same time, Lilo and Stitch came out the same year, and that movie...
Actually, that also might have been a
success.
factor, because that was also an animated Disney sci-fi film, so maybe audiences felt they already got their fix earlier.
Maybe.
Actually, how were the DVD sales? That's an interesting question.
I actually don't know. I imagine they were good.
It's usually how like cult followings form because it did well on
Yeah.
DVD. So it brought in 64 million in DVD sales. So if you add that to the gross, I guess it means the movie slightly broke even, but not much.
What is Treasure Planet? Well, if you couldn't somewhat tell by the title, it is an adaptation of Treasure Island. Loosely, anyway. Question, have you guys read Treasure Island at all?
No.
Yeah, as a kid.
I'm familiar with the story, but I've never actually read it before.
I read it in middle school, like, on my own accord. I don't remember anything about it, though.
I remember Long John Silver.
Anyway, yeah, this is a sort of steampunk, not even really steampunk, it's like Victorian era slash future, like Victorian era meets future version of Treasure Planet set in space, but let me start from the beginning. So there's a guy named Jim Hawkins who lives with his mother, and his father just up and left. No explanations ever given, he just left, and Jim ain't very happy about that. He kind of turned into a bit of a delinquent, not really helping his mother with anything. He's kind of failing out of school, and he's just kind of mopey all the time. But then he gets his hands on a map to Treasure Planet, and he figures if he can go and, get some of this forbidden treasure, he can set things right with himself and his mother and maybe turn his life around. So he enlists the help of a crew who have ulterior motives for getting the treasure for themselves, but he does form a relationship with Long John Silver, one of the main captains on the ship. And thus, we have our adventure. So who wants to start?
I guess I will.
Right?
Here's a question. Has any of you guys seen this movie before?
Once.
Yes.
A long time ago.
I have.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Okay. Okay, so all of us have. All right. Now, I was gonna be like, whoever has the least experience can go first, but All right, Lugia, you want to go first?
Sure. So it's been a while since I saw this. I didn't really remember too much about it other than it being a sci-fi adventure, and I remember Ben very vividly. But watching it now as an adult, I appreciate the dynamic they have between Jim and Silver, as he's kind of like a father figure, but he also has his own goals to keep in mind. Because spoilers, Silver just wants the loot of 1,000 worlds, but because he formed a relationship with Jim, he's like, ah, damn, like, what do I give up here, the treasure or Jim? Because like I kind of like this kid. He's really good and he can go places, but fuck, I've been waiting for this for like years. I really do like it. I just think the hour and a half runtime doesn't do it that much justice. I feel like if we got like a little more screen time with them bonding, I think we could have had something incredible. At worst, it's fine.
I actually thought their core relationship was developed pretty well. My issue with the movie is just that outside the core relationship, I don't really care about much. Like, I feel like
I'm
the
gonna
core relationship is strong, but the rest of it is, I don't know, whatever.
I'm in agreement with Lugia. I think the relationship between Jim and Silver is really what makes this movie. I think that's pretty much the general consensus. Some of the other aspects are a bit more hit or miss for me, but as a whole, I do think this film does hold up. I like it about as much as I did when I was a kid.
I like the general aesthetic, although I will say I don't like Jim's design. I think his hair looks really stupid.
His
I like how the movie looks, but
his face kind of looks like he got like halfway crushed in like a garbage compactor. Like it's so slim.
Some of the faces look weird, but I generally like how the movie looks. Long John Silver has a great look to
A
him.
lot of the alien designs are really cool. Silver, Scorp, or Scroop. Scroop is his name, not Scorp.
It looks like a mix between like the aliens from Lilo and Stitch and Futurama.
Yeah.
I wasn't a fan of the Rosie O'Donnell robot. Or was that Rosie O'Donnell?
No, that was
was
Martin Short. Actually,
Martin Short.
I wanted to talk about Ben for a second. I remember as a kid, I liked Ben, but like every review I've heard since, like nobody cares for him. I was curious, like, would my opinion of him change? He's fine.
He's the Jar Jar Binks of this space adventure. He's inoffensive. You don't even meet him until an hour into the film, which is already 2/3 done. So it's not like he gets that much screen time, but they try to cram him in as much as possible during those last 30 minutes. And
Based on my admittedly limited research, he is actually based on a character from Treasure Island, so it's not like he was just thrown in for the sake of Disney.
but they made him funny, quote unquote.
He's got a few
I mean, I
laughs, but he mostly just kind of screams everything he says.
I like when Jim is fighting Scroop when they return to the ship to get the map, and Ben's job during that whole espionage is that he has to disable the ether cannons, and he tries pulling the wires. He doesn't even know which one's the right wire, so he just keeps fucking around, but ultimately that somehow helps Jim during the fight because he like turns off the anti-gravity switch. So I kind of
like
like
that.
that, but as a whole, Ben is just take it or leave it. I don't really care for him.
I like slapstick mixed with action. That's always like, because Jackie Chan and Pirates of the Caribbean do it pretty well. But overall, like I guess like I generally just agree with consensus that this movie is okay, not bad, but nothing really to write home about. I imagine if I saw it as a kid, I'd be like, oh, that was pretty good, and then I probably wouldn't think about it much.
Oh, you didn't see this movie as a kid?
No, I saw this in Atlantis like well into adulthood, I'm pretty sure. I think I saw this in like 2020. Yeah, I saw Treasure Planet during like COVID or whatever. Sinbad I saw a little bit earlier. I don't remember when I saw Sinbad, but I know I saw that earlier. So yeah, I guess I have more of a relationship with that movie, which is kind of weird to think about since that's no one cares about that. You want to get into Sinbad, or do you guys have any more thoughts?
Before we go into Sinbad, I actually want to talk about the animation style for Treasure Planet because I think it's a combination of three things. It was hand-drawn animation for the characters. There was some CG for stuff like Silver's mechanical arm, and I forget what the technique is called, but they use it for the environments. It's like deep. Fuck, I can't remember the name. But they use a similar technique in Tarzan where they have like 3D pre-rendered models of the environments, and then they draw the characters going through the environments afterwards. It's called Deep Canvas. And honestly, outside of like the space whales, I think this movie visually holds up very well.
I was surprised to see how well like the 2D and 3D mix.
especially with
Yeah.
Silver. They did an excellent job with him.
I'd say like by Tarzan, they figured out how to make CGI with 2D pretty well. It's
Tarzan
just a shame.
wasn't Tarzan a year after?
No, that was 3
That was
years
before.
before.
Oh, was it?
That was in
Okay.
the 90s. Yeah, the
Yeah.
year after was I think they didn't really do
My
much
bad.
2D animation after Treasure Planet. I think it was like what, Princess and the Frog, and then Winnie the Pooh, and then it stopped.
After
Oh, Home
Treasure
on the Range.
Planet, it was Brother Bear, Home on the Range. Then it was a while until Princess and the Frog, and then Winnie the Pooh, and yeah, that's that's all she wrote as of now.
Man, Brother Bear. That's like I actually did see that a lot as a kid for some reason.
I saw Brother Bear once.
Brother Bear is like a weird movie because I remember really liking the first act and really liking the last act, but the entire middle is just like a void in my memory. I do. It had no impact on me. The middle. Yeah, that movie actually made a ton of money, which is think about it, like what? It's kind of weird they're so bullish on 2D animation. I guess like because all their 3D animation just made so much more money, but it's just like I don't know, their 2D anime films also had lower budgets, like for the most part, because like Brother Bear and Lilo and Stitch, they were both like under $100 million, and they both grossed like 250, so it was a sizable profit. Treasure Planet was, I guess, a bit of an exception, but actually, Home on the Range actually didn't even do that bad gross wise. So yeah, I guess they people blame it on Treasure Planet, but Treasure Planet seems to be the only like actual bomb of this era. And the rest was just like it made money, it just didn't make nearly as much money as Pixar. Actually, now I need to look up when did Chicken Little come out? That was
2005.
okay, that was the same year as Home on the Range. And
No, Home on the Range came out a year before.
okay, yeah, Chicken Little made $300 million, which is more than Brother Bear and Lilo and Stitch made. But I would also argue that its budget was way higher, so I don't even know if that was that much more profitable. But we'll see. Sometimes I wonder if companies care as much about profit or if they just care more about like the final box office gross. Because they're like, oh yeah, our this movie made this much money, and yeah, it costed like a ton, but I guess that means like more people saw it, so there's a reason to think it was a bigger success, even if you didn't actually make that much money. Any more thoughts on Treasure Planet?
Like Dr. Doppler.
He's okay. I didn't really care much for him or Amelia and their relationship. I mean, it's serviceable, but nothing special. I think that's about it
Is
then.
that it?
Yeah.
Is that it for Treasure Planet?
Yep.
All right, gents. Set course for Syracuse. Sinbad, Legend of the Seven Seas, is next on the docket. This was directed by Tim Johnson and Patrick Gilmore. Tim Johnson had previously directed DreamWorks' first animated film, Ants, and Patrick Gilmore, this was his first movie ever. So
Did you direct anything after?
I don't know. So, in a bit of an ironic sense, or I don't know if ironic's the right word to use, but in an interesting sense, Sinbad kind of starts with John Musker and Ron Clements in a way. It starts with Aladdin, and they directed Aladdin. After Aladdin released, the screenwriters for that film had an idea to make an adaptation of Sinbad, which, I mean, makes sense. After adapting one story from 1001 Arabian Nights, why not take a crack at any of the other 1,000 stories? Though it didn't go anywhere at Disney, when DreamWorks formed in 1994, Katzenberg decided to put the idea into action. The film went through a couple of revisions, mainly with tonal changes and switching it from more comedic to more adventurous, but it eventually released in July 2003. And reviews were mixed, but in terms of box office, it's okay. Wait, no, it's not, because it was a box office bomb, only grossing $80 million against a budget of $60 million. And
Which
in fact,
it's funny because it is technically a box office bomb, but it still did better than Treasure Planet.
Here's the thing. It nearly bankrupted DreamWorks. And due to its failure, this would be DreamWorks' last hand-drawn animated film. Even to this day, they've never released another one. And I think to blame for its failure was also similar to Treasure Planet, heavy competition, and what's probably the biggest blow, a week after this movie, the first Pirates of the Caribbean film released. So
yeah, if you wanted to pick a pirate movie, there was a better one.
This movie released the same weekend as Terminator 3 and Legally Blonde 2. It stood no chance.
We joke, but like those movies actually did make a lot of money. So
No.
I imagine Terminator 3 would have done well considering it's a popular name.
yeah, and also like Terminator 2 is like one of the most beloved movies of all time. So like generally I've noticed that like sequels to beloved movies make a ton of money regardless of if the sequel is actually good or not. Here's the funny thing. So I did not know this is from 1001 Nights. I was just like, oh yeah, Sinbad the pirate, and I was like, I had no idea it was like an Arab thing, so I completely forgot. Like, Yeah. So
What I
I know.
understand, this borrows more from Greek mythology than the original story. So
Yeah, no, this is an adaptation of the Odyssey, basically.
yeah, kind of. From what I remember, the Odyssey, which is a few things. But anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves. What is Sinbad about? Well, Sinbad is this guy who just kind of smuggles. He steals. He's a pirate, and he meets with an old best friend of his who kind of turned his life around, or he's gonna be like the king or prince or something. I'm buzzing on a bit of the details, but he's transferring a book of peace, to the city of Syracuse, which is gonna protect them, I guess. I mean, it's called the Book of Peace. You can probably piece it together.
I'm
But
gonna be honest, I cracked up every time they said Syracuse in this movie.
why?
Because Syracuse, New York. Like I just kept it like I was just thinking, it's like, oh yeah, we're going to Syracuse. In my head, I was just thinking of like I know they meant Syracuse in the actual Italy, but I was just thinking of like, Little Italy, I guess.
But Eris, the goddess of discord, decides to wreak some havoc. So she basically frames Sinbad for stealing the Book of Peace, and Sinbad's like, "Whoa, it wasn't me. I swear to you." But Sinbad's best friend believes him and decides, you know what? Unless the book comes back, they're gonna kill you. So I will take your place. If you bring the book back and come back, then they'll grant you free. So Sinbad sets across the ocean to get back the book, along with the help of his best friend's soon-to-be wife, and thus we have our adventure. If I can start here, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. While I was interested in revisiting Treasure Planet, I was most curious to see how I would feel about Sinbad because, well, as I said, I had seen Treasure Planet before. Sinbad is the one 2D DreamWorks film I had no experience with at all. I'd seen the other ones, but this is one I'd never watched, and I'd never really heard anybody say anything about it.
And what's the verdict?
I like it.
Yeah, I liked it too. So I actually saw this movie before I saw Treasure Planet. I don't know how or why I watched this movie, but I did. And yeah, I always thought like, hey, that was pretty underrated. Like I thought it was a good movie. I probably like it more than Treasure Planet, honestly. Not like a lot more, but a little more. I think
I
it's a bit more.
disagree. I think this film is still good, but I personally prefer Treasure Planet and the scope of that story compared to this.
See, okay, I'll agree there. I think like the core relationship and the general like scope of Treasure Planet is better, but I feel like this is just more like moment to moment entertaining because there's just it's more of an episodic movie. So like I don't know,
Yeah.
there's just like always something going on, and
I
I
will say,
really like the
yeah.
villain. So I was gonna say like Long John Silver is like a more complex character, but Eris is just really fun as a villain. I mean, especially animation wise, obviously.
I would agree in the sense that I think Sinbad is the more fun movie, but Treasure Planet definitely has the better character relationships. Because if I can get into my biggest gripe with Sinbad, I don't really care for the character relationships here. Basically, he spends the entire movie talking about his friend, but like, I don't know, it just felt kind of weird to me that he spends the whole movie talking about his friend, and it's supposed to be that relationship. But in the end, it ends off with him getting his girl and just sailing off into the sunset. I don't know. It felt weird to me.
Yeah, that was weird. I feel like I kind of like the climax where it's kind of like it does a sort of Last Temptation of Christ thing where like it reveals that he is willing to take I like that whole part, but the weird love triangle, it's so bizarre. I don't know. To compare it to Pirates of the Caribbean, with that one it kind of worked because like you just knew that she had zero interest in Norrington, so it doesn't feel as like icky. But like here this is like an actual like love triangle. I was like, this is very bizarre that he's stealing his his friend's girl. I was like, what the hell?
And they did not start off very well, though. I could have sworn Sinbad nearly called her a bitch, like after the whole siren incident.
It's another thing. Yeah, I don't know. Here's the thing. Like, have you guys ever seen like a Ray Harryhausen movie?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I would say like you probably just watch one of those like instead. Like this feels like a kind of fun like I guess modernized sort of update on that kind of type of movie. But like ultimately like if you want like just a classic sort of swashbuckling movie, I would just say watch one of those. Like ultimately, I like this movie. I don't think it's like a bad movie. And if I saw it as a kid, I imagine I would have really loved it. But I don't know. I feel like it's definitely a movie to watch when you're like 6 years old because you have a lot of fun with the adventuring stuff. And all the weird stuff is just gonna go over your head. But as an adult,
Also,
it's like, yeah, it's fun, but there's not much substance, and the part that tries to have substance is just really muddled.
I don't really blame the film for this, but the 2D and 3D don't blend as well as Treasure
Oh
Planet.
my god. Can we just talk about that real quick?
Yeah,
Oh.
like
Yeah,
okay,
that was fucking funny.
the ships and like the backgrounds, they're fine. But then you throw the sea monsters in here. I feel like I'm watching like a PlayStation boss fight or something.
Structurally, it's so video gamey too. Like that's the
Yeah.
It's like one incident after the next.
yeah, that's like
If you
boss
pay
rush.
attention to like scenes where a lot of the land or the area is shown on display and the characters are like super small by comparison to show you the scope of the land or the sea, the characters are just CG 3D models.
I
And
noticed that. It's
if you
funny.
squint your eyes, they look like shit, but it's so
It's
funny.
so funny.
Sadly, they kind of overuse it though, so when you notice it, you can't unnotice it.
Yeah, it's really weird because like I would say like when this movie has good animation, it's actually like really impressive, but like it just has a bunch of bad
Like
ones.
design-wise, like the humans are great.
Yeah, like I don't think the humans have like nearly as much of that uncanniness that like some of the humans in Treasure Planet did. And again, the villain is I truly think that the villain's animation is phenomenal. But yeah, it just doesn't do the CGI well.
One other
And
thing, I don't know if this is just a me thing or not. I found Brad Pitt's voice kind of distracting.
It was
I didn't think it
fine.
was distracting, but it definitely felt like to me he was like putting on like a cool voice, which I don't know if that's like distracting, but I was like, what about Catherine Zeta-Jones? What do you think about her performance?
I thought she was fine.
Interesting. Okay.
I don't know what it is. Like just Brad Pitt's voice just kind of took me out of it. I don't really know how to describe it. I like Brad
Alright.
Pitt. It just kind of felt weird here in this setting.
So when you're listening to Brad Pitt as Sinbad, you're not picturing Sinbad, you're just picturing Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Although in my opinion, like Brad Pitt is not a bad casting for Sinbad. He's meant to be this ultra charismatic, like good looking dude, and like let's be fucking real here. Here's a question. So we kind of complained about the side cast in Treasure Planet. What did you guys think of the side cast here?
They weren't great, but I was surprised by like the quirks they gave them. Like I really like that one guy who swings around the ship like Spider-Man. Like I thought that was really creative.
They were fine, but I like how Treasure Planet did it better because the crew was not a crew for the ship. They were with Silver, who already had ulterior motives, and they wanted to go along with that. They wanted to find the loot of 1,000 worlds. Whereas here, they're just working for Sinbad, and they don't really have like anything interesting going on about them aside from their one quirk.
It kind of reminded me of like Atlantis: The Lost Empire because I feel like I like them. I think they were a lesser version of Atlantis: Lost Empire because Atlantis: Lost Empire had they also had like quirks, but I feel like the quirks there just kind of stood out more. Like they're more interesting kind of quirks to me, and also like Treasure Planet, there actually was like an extra layer there because they were just in it for the money when like the main character wasn't. So there was like kind of like a similar sort of betrayal angle, but it wasn't like a betrayal thing because they weren't like always planning on screwing him over, but like that was just kind of and obviously they turn around, but like yeah, I feel like it's just a lesser version of Atlantis because it had like a bit of the depth that you would that I think Lugia wanted, and I feel like the quirks kind of stood out more. But I don't think it's bad. Like I think it's fun enough. Like for a perfectly, I think this movie is perfectly serviceable as like light popcorn entertainment. There's just like nothing beyond the surface ultimately. Like I guess that's like my ultimate conclusion. When Treasure Planet is probably a messier movie, but there is a lot more to chew on.
Also, it's
Yeah,
called
it's-
Legend of the Seven Seas, but as far as I'm concerned, they only explore the one sea to get to Tartarus. So this is false advertising.
Yeah, what the hell? This is not like One Piece at all. Yeah, actually, that's now that I bring it up, One Piece is a good comparison. This if you like Sinbad, check out One Piece. Yeah, it's like 1,000 episodes, but
How
most
much
of those
filler
episodes
can
are
you
good.
skip?
Okay, okay. Generally, do not watch the One Piece anime. Just read the manga. It has a bad issue where like the issue isn't even just that it has like filler stuff because like the early episodes are fine because you can just skip filler episodes. But the bad thing is like as the series goes along, they stop having filler episodes, but they just stretch out a chapter into a whole episode. The thing is that chapters are like maybe 7 minutes worth of content. So like ideally most anime they'll take like 3 chapters and turn that into an episode. When One Piece it's just 1-to-1 and it's awful because it's just so slow. So yeah, just read the manga for One Piece. I haven't seen the 1,001 Nights anime, but maybe watch that. That was directed by Osamu Tezuka, and he's a legend. So Fundamentally, since this is like more of a adaptation of like the Odyssey than it really is of a Sinbad story, I guess I would recommend checking out some other Odyssey adaptations if you like this.
I feel like a movie came to mind as I was watching it. I just don't remember what it
For
is.
Treasure Planet, it was on the tip of my tongue.
For Treasure Planet, I'm definitely thinking Atlantis. But I don't know. I'm trying to think. Like, and I guess Pirates of the Caribbean because that also has kind of like some double crossing stuff. But like, oh, here, if you like Treasure Planet, I recommend checking out Nadia, Secret of Blue Water. That is a anime. It's an adaptation of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, but it has like a similar sort of sci-fi spin to it. So, also probably check out the Dezeki adaptation of Treasure Island or Moby Dick because those are also kind of sci-fi spins on it. All I can think of is anime. I can't think of anything like American. Ray Harryhausen for Sinbad too, I guess. If you want like a more vintage sort of classic swashbuckling movie, definitely check out the Ray Harryhausen movies. He did Jason and the Argonauts, Clash of the Titans. And he also actually did a couple Sinbad movies: Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, The Golden Voyage of Sinbad, like the original. Note those movies are potentially racist just because they were made in the 1940s or whatever, but they're not that racist. They're like King and I level racist, I imagine.
Anyway, Red,
Um,
I do believe it is your turn to chart a course.
yes. So this recommendation is completely out of season because we did not record in January, and this is my recommendation for January, and not February, the month of love. But whatever. So here's a question. So you guys are familiar with A Christmas Carol, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Have we ever talked about A Christmas Carol on here?
I don't think so.
We never dedicated an episode to it.
All right, but you guys are all familiar with the story, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Of course.
Okay, perfect. So this movie is not A Christmas Carol, but it is structurally very similar, but it's more of it's different. It's called The Phantom Carriage. It's a silent film from the 1920s. Which is it's
Hmm.
this sort of like a Swedish movie. We've talked about like Igmar Bergman before, The Seventh Seal. It's very much like it's sort of similar to that sort of like Swedish sort of fable thing. And I really love this movie. It's very similar to Christmas Carol. I don't want you guys to double feature with the Christmas Carol. I just want to make sure that you guys are like, you know. But I just want you guys to keep it in mind, like A Christmas Carol, because I mean, I'm sure you guys are just gonna know some parallels too. But yeah, this definitely feels like sort of a dark sort of twist on A Christmas Carol. It is a silent film. I believe it is in the public domain, so you guys can probably just find it on Wikipedia or something. I don't believe we've talked about Wild Strawberries before, have we?
No.
All right, so never mind. So this is you're just gonna go in completely blind into Victor Sodstrom, but yeah, directed by the legendary Victor Sodstrom. I don't know how to pronounce that name. I'll figure out how to pronounce it by next week. Yeah, this movie is free on Wikipedia, so if you guys just want to watch it there, you can just watch it there, I guess. It's probably on YouTube too, because it's in the public domain.
All right, gents, that'll do it for today. If you need me, I'll be in my captain's quarters.